Your comfort zone starts where the questions you ask start making the experts uncomfortable. But then you aren't even here for anything comfortable. Not for a cushy job, not for a 9 to 5, not for a fancy designation. You're not made to settle for anything less than what ignites your spirit. You're not here to write code. You are here to rewrite the future. You're not made to design games. You're here to change the game. You're not here to mark your attendance. You're here to leave your mark on the world. You're not here to be created for jobs, but to have jobs be created for you. You're not here for the purpose of making a living. You are here to make living full of purpose. You're not here to upgrade your skills. You are here to upgrade the life of billions. You're not here for the rat race. You are made for the human race. You are not made for anything small. In fact, you are not made for anything less than creating a dent in the universe. Hero Wired. Be made for big things.
Hello, everyone. Thank you to our sponsors, IIT Madras, Hero Wired and Active for the whole Sangam event. Very good evening to all of you. Hello, my name is Malti Raghunath, an alumna of IIT Madras MSc Chemistry batch of 1999. I welcome you all to IITMAA's flagship event, which is Sangam, and this program that's focusing on sustainability. For many of us, the IITM instantly brings an image of lush green oasis amidst the urban Chennai sprawl, a campus that is over 600 acres with a dedicated 60% forest reserve is the perfect backdrop for all the diverse flora and fauna, over 35 species, including the endangered black buck. Hence, the conversation towards ecological preservation and sustainability is a natural interest for this community. If not us, then who else, right? And to give you the specific sustainability measures taken at IIT Madras in key areas such as energy, water management, and construction is Professor Mahesh Panchagnulla. It's my pleasure to introduce him as our keynote speaker today. Professor Mahesh Panchagnulla serves as the Dean, Alumni and Corporate Relations at IITM since September 2018. Professor Mahesh holds a BTech from IITM and has an MS and PhD from Purdue University. He has been the faculty in charge and has been the director of the IITM Incubation Cell and teaching and research for over 20 years. Professor Mahesh serves as he served as the associate professor, assistant professor at the Tennessee Technological University from August 2005 to July 2010. His expertise is in fluid dynamics, pulmonary mechanics, aerosol dynamics, spray nozzle design, and combustion. He's passionate about building institutions that can endure generations and help the students and researchers as well as to nurture as a mentor and mold the leaders of tomorrow. So I welcome Professor Mahesh to give the keynote address for the sustainability panel. Welcome, Professor Mahesh.
Thank you, Malati. And it's a pleasure and honor to be talking to our fellow alumni and alumni of IIT Madras. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, wherever you are. With over 50,000 alumni spread over at least 75 countries that we know, this is as global an alumni base as any university can boast of. As Malati mentioned, sustainability comes naturally to IIT Madras. I graduated, as Malati mentioned, in 1992 from with a BTech in mechanical engineering. And we thought the campus was green, was full of wildlife. I come back almost 18 years later and I find it's greener and has more diverse wildlife. We take great pride in creating a campus that is a model for the rest of the world to emulate. One that preserves our flora and fauna while we grow to serve the needs of the nation, while we grow in our aspirational directions with our research and teaching. As far as sustainability is concerned, technology and sustainability go very much hand in hand. One could argue that technology is the reason we're talking of sustainability today because of all the issues that have arose as a result of poorly conceived technologies. But we must also admit that the solution to those problems also lies in leveraging technology. We are firm believers in the fact that technology is here to improve the lives of people. Technology is here to create a better tomorrow for every one of us in India and the world. IIT has several initiatives in the direction of creating a more sustainable tomorrow for all of us. I want to highlight three directions that IIT has sort of focused on in the last couple of years specifically, and couple of years more formally, but for over 20 years sort of more informally. And one of those is in the direction of creating a more aware energy future for India. We recently launched a global energy consortium that is here to enable transformation to a more low carbon future for India as well as the rest of the world. As we all know, India is now a signatory to going net zero emissions by 2070 or earlier. And we want to play our part as the leading technology institution in the country by helping industry, by helping organizations in India chart out a low carbon future for themselves. Next slide, please. So this enabling a low carbon future has three sort of aspects to it. One is studying technology and innovation in various applications, such as advanced gas turbine engines, carbon dioxide capture, utilization and storage, energy storage, battery technologies, and new kinds of storage technologies are very much part of what we are researching under the footprint of this energy consortium. Microgrid technologies. Microgrids are very interesting in the perspective that you could create islands of renewable energy grids that could service local demand as opposed to having one national grid. And we have faculty members working on creating better and more stable microgrid technologies that would seamlessly blend renewable energy with non-renewable energy sources. Photo and electrochemical energy sciences, which includes the chemistry underlying battery sciences, is very much an interesting area for the country. And of course, renewable energy systems, which includes wind, which includes solar. And we have IIT Madras has traditionally been a very strong institution with expertise in hydro energy, hydro power generation. And we want to sort of build upon that because that is one of the most promising technology directions for India as a country. And of course, water, where renewable energy meets water, which is solar desalination, is another area where we have a lot of expertise. So creating low carbon lifestyles and along the way, creating future energy leaders of tomorrow. On this note, I want to mention one quick point that we are going to launch an energy assessment network, a national energy assessment center network, which would work with MSMEs in the local geographies across India to help them become energy aware, to help them save energy and become more profitable along the way. Can you go to the next slide, please? So for more on the Energy Assessment Center, I'll request you to reach out to either Nikhil or Professor Satya Seshadri. And this is a very important effort. It requires all of our expertise to be pulled in to really make a dent in the way we manage our energy resources for the next decade or two. So please come on board, reach out to them, and they'll be happy to see how you can become part of this consortium. Another big area of interest for IIT Madras has been water. We have several faculty members, almost about 30 to 35 faculty members working in the broad area of clean water and water resource management. And we're proud to announce a new initiative being launched with partnership of the IIT Madras Alumni Association called IITMAA. IITMAA broadly is a first of its kind initiative that brings alumni engagement or takes alumni engagement to a different level. This is a way by which we want alumni in their local geographies identify problems with water body management or clean water in their local geographies. Reach out to IIT Madras. We will find technologies, we will find solutions for you locally. Work with us and create these solutions that would be sustainable and relevant to your local needs. So this is sort of a very unique system where alumni in their neighborhoods create clean water solutions, working with the local government and IIT Madras. Now, broadly, we want to leverage alumni presence in many different areas here in three different directions. One is by creating model water management sites. We've already done one of these in the neighborhood of Nagapattinam. We want to replicate and we want to create models that others can learn from. We also want to look at water and wastewater cycle and locally create sustainable wastewater management solutions. And the last aspect is to take technology solutions that we've developed for local geographies, create digital twins that would be operated by IIT Madras, obtain data, and essentially track the way by which these solutions are truly becoming sustainable and demonstrate to the world how we can create how we can create sustainable solutions and manage digital twins that would sort of keep track of where these water bodies are going. So come on board again. For those that are interested in reaching out in helping this, please reach out to either Krishnan Narayanan, who is the president of the Alumni Association, or Professor Liji Philip at IIT Madras. They'll be more than happy to take advantage of your expertise and your help. The third vertical in which IIT Madras has traditionally been one of the strongest in India is in creating better civil engineering infrastructure for India at large and the world at large. We have a fairly large effort in looking at sustainable construction technologies. As you all may have seen in the news recently, we launched a new kind of a 3D printing technology that is scalable, deployable rapidly, and leaves almost no carbon footprint except for the cement production footprint that we still are working on. A second aspect of creating more sustainable construction technologies is to look at recycling construction waste. The next decade is going to see a completely rebooted India. There's no doubt about that. There's going to be massive demolition and reconstruction. So a key aspect of being sustainable in this whole process is to be able to manage that construction waste. So we have faculty members that have proposed a new center of excellence in managing construction waste in what they call a circular economy for construction technologies that leaves, again, a zero carbon footprint in the long run, which has to include creating a zero carbon or sort of green cement technologies. For those that are interested in learning more about that, please reach out to Professor Manu Santanam, who leads that initiative. You know, as I mentioned, the IIT Madras is one of the most beautiful campuses, university campuses in the world. We want to preserve it that way. For every tree that we are sort of forced to cut down for building a building somewhere on campus, we make a conscious attempt and plant two to sort of have a greener future for all of us. Those of you that are logging in from Chennai, remember every time you take your breath, some part of that oxygen is coming from the trees here on our campus. This is the oxygen factory of IIT of Chennai. We want to sort of help and grow that in many different ways. We are proud of the flora and fauna on campus. We are home to about over 100 species of birds. And just to put that number in context, there are only 3,000 species of birds in the whole world. And we see at least about 20 migratory birds that come to the campus every year and call this their home for a short while. And every one of us, alumni and alumna, have to take pride in the fact that we together have created this campus and we call this our home. So go on and talk about this campus. That's the first service that all of you should do for IIT Madras. Talk about IIT Madras. The fact that we are ranked #1 for 6 years in a row. Talk about the IIT Madras that you left behind, the one that made you who you are. Talk about the IIT Madras that is creating all these new technologies for the world to embrace and become a better place for all of us to live. With that, I'll pause. Thank you, Malati, for giving me this opportunity, and I look forward to the panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mahesh, for a very, very inspiring keynote for this panel. And with that, let me go ahead and introduce our eminent panel of speakers and moderators for today's evening. Our speakers include Ms. Madhulika Sharma. She's a Chief Sustainability Officer at ITC Limited. Madhulika is passionate about conservation of nature and corporate social responsibility, and combined with many insights about business, which has helped her in developing sustainability strategies and also driving the sustainability initiatives across functions as the Chief Corporate Sustainability Officer in Tata Steel Limited. She focuses on the sustainability trends and associated business risks for the creation of and mitigation strategy in collaboration with the operating teams. She has a proven track record in leading development and implementation of complex programs in large companies which revolve around sustainability, including material assessment processes. And during her over 30 years career, she has gained an in-depth understanding of key material sustainability trends and evolving expectations for responsibility and sustainability among various key stakeholders, such as the shareholders, the customers, the government, and the non-government sector. Welcome, Madhulika Sharma.
Thanks, Marti. Thanks.
Next up on our panel is Ms. Anjali Ravikumar. She is the Chief Sustainability Officer at Zomato. Anjali is a sustainability policy and partnership specialist who helps companies grow by designing and implementing programs for social and business impact. She works with a diverse team internally and externally, corporate communications, CSR, supply chain, marketing, legal, and regulatory affairs. And she leads this in the global nonprofit coalitions as well with intergovernmental organizations to design impactful partnership. So welcome, Ms. Anjali Ravi Kumar, who is the Chief Sustainability Officer at Zomato. And our third panelist is Professor Anuradha Ganesh, who is a fellow of INAE. She serves as the Chief Technology Advisor and Director at Cummins Adjunct. Professor Anuradha was a professor, and she was head of the Department of Energy Science and Engineering at IIT Bombay between the years of 1988 and 2015. So she is coming from an academic background. She has taught all the courses related to IC engines, combustion for undergraduates, energy economics, environment, waste to energy, energy management for postgraduates with a research focus on biomass-based technology, gasification and pyrolysis, supercritical fluid extraction, nanomaterials. She comes with over 50 plus publications and over 1,500 citations. 10 plus PhDs, which include diversity. She's also a convener of Women's Cell at IIT and leading diversity promotion activities at Cummins, organized the first Society for Women in Engineering conference in India that led to the creation of India chapter. Currently, Professor Ganesh holds a research program for developing advanced technology for future businesses which need automotive and energy domains. And her work involves exploration of new technology ideas through university collaborations, proof of concept to demonstrate technical feasibility, and the integration of new technologies into the new products. Welcome, Professor Anuradha Ganesh. And our moderator for the evening is Mr. Naveen Unni, who is the Managing Director of McKinsey & Company based in Chennai. Naveen Unni is an alumnus of IIT Madras, BTech Civil Engineering. Naveen is passionate about sustainability. He transforming organizations and believes that corporate India is the key to driving more sustainability projects and eco-friendly initiatives in the country. During the last 18 plus years with the firm, he has led several large-scale multi-year transformations with strong focus on transforming culture and building capabilities. One thrust focus for Naveen is helping corporates integrate the sustainability solutions into their businesses, including supporting them in their decarbonization efforts. He's also co-authored several articles and publications, and he speaks very regularly at public forums and events, including at the India Road of the COP26 event, which was organized by the International Climate Group. Welcome, Naveen, and big welcome to this panel of eminent speakers. I'll ask Naveen to take it over from me at this point.
Thank you, Malti. Thank you, and thank you, Professor, for your very inspiring words about what IIT Madras is doing. So I'm also going to do my bit as an alumnus and say, great going IIT Madras. Professor Ganesh may have something to say about that. We can induce a little bit of Bombay Madras rivalry as well while we're at it. Great. So good evening, everyone. And I'm going to take just a few minutes to frame the conversation because I really think the heroes of our panel today are the three panelists. But it's a really interesting topic. And when the IITMAA reached out to me to, how do we think about this? Restoring balance in STEM and where sustainability fits. I think it's about restoring balance in a broader world. About 10, 11 years ago, I had the privilege of leading a short piece of knowledge work inside McKinsey on the future of capitalism. And how do you think about capitalism for the long term? And it's remarkable that this theme has kept coming back, right? It comes back in different forms and guises, but the whole idea of how do we create a world that actually lasts beyond ourselves and the next generation is, I think, at the heart of sustainability. And therefore, when we talk about restoring balance in STEM, this is not just restoring balance in STEM, this is about restoring balance in the world at large. And I think it's a very important topic. And the fact that, I know it sounds like a buzzword, but the fact that it has become a buzzword is a good thing. Let's use it or we lose it. And so with that opening frame, I have an opening question for each of our panelists. And I might start in the order in which Malti has introduced them. And I'll start with Madhulika. But sustainability, big theme. It's really kind of taking off. But I'd love to know, because you're all veterans of this space, How have you seen it evolve over the last decade, 2 decades, in which you've been working in this space? Would love kind of your opening thoughts on that.
Yeah, thanks, Naveen, and thanks for inviting me to this, esteemed panel and being part of this conversation. It's always enlightening to get to know more from, fellow co-workers from, different spaces, and there's always an opportunity for learning. Having said that, I think I'll speak from my perspective. You've said last 2 decades. So about, my earlier, my, interaction in Tata Steel and then now as ITC. So I'll probably, while I'm actively engaged in the space of sustainability for last 7 years, but before that, I've seen how leadership was working because I was working very closely with the leadership team in Tata Steel. And I think, and also with my interaction with all the external forums who have been kind of evangelizing this, like, CII and UN Global Compact and World Economic Forum. So even if you look at the World Economic Forum, the risks, which are, if you just track the last 10 years risk, last 5 years, you will see that the more long-lasting kind of risks, which are nowhere near the risk which earlier, a decade ago, which a business would be seeing, which is like business continuity, profitability, cost, etc. It's more towards climate change, biodiversity, or resource constraint or extreme weather temperatures, etc. So that's I think how the space has moved. While sustainability, I think what has happened in last 5 years is that I think sustainability earlier, while I think 2 decades ago, this mantra of people, planet, and profit came, but true understanding of it is probably happening in last 5 years. And when, but it did happen in pieces, but it was in silo, and it was looked at one vertical in the organization. So when people talked about people, they would probably associate it with community and CSR aspects, or having better employee practices within the organization. When they said about planet, then it was being doing compliance or better than compliance of various regulations which were coming on air emissions, water effluents, etc. And of course, profit was a key thing which you would always anyone in business which will always give that as the top priority and do this as a doing good kind of thing. I think from a do good to a risk-based approach is what things have changed. Now business is looking at more as more risk-based kind of a thing. And this has happened in last 5 years, I'll say. And I consider 2015 as a very, very landmark year for this entire conversation to go forward, because 2 very key things happened in the world which has kind of catapulted sustainability to be a very, very holistic subject, which is first the sustainable development goals which came, and these were 17 sustainable development goals. If you look at it, it's a very holistic, very comprehensive, touches each aspect of it, whether it's business or our lives or community or anything, right? And then of course later in the year it was the Paris Agreement, where I think since Paris Agreement it was more an investor-led kind of a conversation, because they were ready to change their lens from very short-term profitability, which was only looking at dividends, a quarter dividend, annual dividend, to looking at whether they are investing in a business which is going to be sustainable for next 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, 30 years. They didn't want to, because they were again coming from a risk perspective. And then of course, things like TCFD and various other, frameworks have been evolving. So that's how I have seen this space. And now I think there's a true integration of the triple bottom line, which is people, planet, and profit. And sustainability is now more a mainstream subject. I think it's at the heart of any responsible corporate, I think, is now looking at core of sustainability being the core. And I speak from my experience in Tata Steel, where sustainability being one of the things, the last page on the annual plan. Now it was one of the 4 business objectives, and now when I'm ITC, currently the plan season is running, and sustainability is now an integrator, and everyone is saying, starting from chairman, that how is the business getting, each business getting integrated on sustainability, and that's kind of a key focus apart from other enablers like digital, etc. So that's where, I think the integration and the true realization of what is sustainability, it's an overarching, and that understanding is happening, largely being driven by, I think, earlier it was more of a regulator and more of a internal responsibility kind of a driven thing, but now there are more stakeholders which are getting involved. Of course, investors are taking a lead role, but I think slowly, very slowly, it's not happening at an accelerated pace that it's happening in the Western world, but consumers are now also coming at the forefront, and they are making a discerning decisions on the products to buy in terms of sustainability. So all that is, I think, that's where the whole landscape has changed. I can go on and on, but I'll love to hear from my co-panelist on the same question. So thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Madhulika. I mean, those thoughts. So I have made a few notes that I'm going to come back to. I'll also invite the audience, as you think of questions, you can put it in the chat. You can send me a private chat if you're a bit shy. If you're not shy, you can put it in the chat, and we'll see what questions we can get to as we keep going. Let me then hand it to Anjali, and would love to hear your perspectives on the same question, Anjali. Kind of how have you seen it evolve? You've had a different career. You've come from Unilever, where you had a role. Now you're in food service and a different space. I'd love to hear kind of your experiences, but not your experiences as much as how you've seen this thing evolve.
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much. And thanks, Madhulika. I think lots of similarity in my perspective of how things have evolved, but maybe I can share how, what I think has changed really. And I guess why I'm at Zomato, why Zomato, a company as young and as sort of, like Zomato doesn't have factories, and it's not a traditional company in that sense. But why is it that more and more young companies like Zomato are interested in this topic? Maybe that'll explain what I have to say, will explain the journey. So the first is absolutely the general understanding of sustainability has expanded. When I was working in KPMG more close to 10 years ago, there was, and sustainability was all about carbon and climate credits. But today that expanding, even within environmental issues, has expanded. We're talking many more topics within environment. There's water, there's waste, there's a whole lot of interest in plastic. It's a real burning issue. So people understand that it's multidimensional, even within environment. And there's far more interest today in social and governance. I think to some degree, movements like Black Lives Matter, movements, the Occupy Wall Street movement, it's really highlighted social inequality. Then the famous, you had that, what was her name? The girl who stood up, there was a statue of a girl placed on Wall Street to sort of symbolize gender equality. So there's a lot more issues that have come to the fore within the overall sustainability domain. So it means it's actually a fabulous time for students to also figure out what are they interested in. Sustainability doesn't just mean carbon, and it means a whole lot of things, and there's room for everyone to contribute. The second big change that I've seen is who cares about sustainability within the organization. Just as Madhulika was saying, I've just back from Zomato's office in Delhi, where I've met with marketing, because close to 55% of consumers say that they will make brand choices based on how sustainable those brands are, and many of them are willing to pay more. Finance, I met with finance, because more than 12,000 crores of assets today are under ESG funds in India, and this was nearly five-fold growth in the last 2 years. So my CFO is like sitting on my head. And then HR, I had a big meeting with HR, because over 70% of employees believe that they want to work with companies that align with their values in terms of sustainability. So previously it used to be very supply chain. I've actually gone into factories when I was with KPMG to train people on factory floors, and it's amazing to see how many different functions are really interested in sustainability today. I should say the third thing that's changed after the understanding and who cares about sustainability is how to solve for it. Because I think previously there was an impression that, yes, we'll, offset, and we'll find a way to sort of, not to put it, not to diss the offsets world. It's important, but it's not as easy as cut down a tree and plant a tree. And I think people have understood that. And that this means, again, very exciting for students, that there's opportunity for new technologies, alternate solutions, absolutely new product design. So it's great for people with a design mindset. Then absolutely new business models, because very often technology is not the problem. The problem is the cost. The problem is the last mile reach. For plastics is a classic example. We want to desperately replace all plastic containers, but the available alternatives are not available everywhere, and they're not suited for purpose. They don't, not everything holds the kinds of curries that we love to order. So these are some of the basic challenges. We need to really find business models that make it work. And of course, public policy. I like to say that, we don't talk about this enough, but we had a very successful program to introduce LED lights in India. I think it was called, it was called the Ujala scheme. And that's just completed 7 years. And it's a really good scheme to study. It's an excellent example of how public policy can change the scene for sustainability. So good opportunity for those in fields that are non-technical as well, right? So these are the three things that I have to say have changed. And yes, very exciting time, but you can enter this from various dimensions.
Fabulous. Thank you, Anjali. I love the 3 points. So sustainability doesn't mean just carbon. Who cares about sustainability has changed, and how to solve for it. And coming to how to solve for it, and talking to a technologist of the caliber of Anuradha is a genuine delight. I think Anuradha may have forgotten more than all of us know put together on this topic. So with that, let me turn over to Anuradha for your views on the same question. How have you seen it evolve, Anuradha?
Thank you, Naveen. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And I must answer your first question on the rivalry first, because I must tell you, it's not just IIT Bombay versus IIT Madras, it's IIT Delhi also, because I'm a PhD from IIT Delhi. So there is a lot of rivalry, but at the same time, I think it's all of us are in it. Madhulika and Anjali have sort of said it all, and I echo their thoughts. And I also want to say, when I shifted my career from academia to industry, Cummins actually was I actually chose Cummins because I worked with them and I was very impressed by the work that they are doing, not under the name of sustainability, but the work that they were doing, starting from supporting me in village electrification using biofuels, and that was indigenously developed technology, to their very interesting line of business, which is the remanufacturing, where they take back the engines and then they salvage it, and they do some research to see how we can improve, actually make it into a brand new engine, certify it and sell it back. It was very impressive. Having said that, when you first talked about this question in the morning, Naveen, what really set me thinking was, is it new? All right. When I started my career in 1988, the first course, you mentioned it also, I took was energy management, energy conservation and management. And then within 3 years, everyone had the students, and master students are well aware. So BTech students are core courses, but the master students are very well aware. So they came around and asked, we should have a course on waste management, because people had started talking about waste management. All right. Then very soon, I had a specialization in plastic waste management. All right. And then hazardous, and then non-biodegradable and biodegradable. And then it turned into energy efficiency. B was established, and then we went into energy efficiency. And then I started teaching life cycle assessment. All right. Well-to-wheel analysis, life cycle assessment. And then slowly, even though I left IIT and went to Cummins, when I came back, what I was seeing is sustainability was being taught. And now there is a new name, circular economy. Okay, so I think we were always doing it. We just want a new name at every time. And it's come down to sustainability now. I really believe so. In some form or the other, with different electives, with different type, we were talking about energy efficiency. Okay, and I really believe we were always talking about reuse. We were always talking about reduce the use. We were always talking about recycle the use. Now, why we don't even have to go very far. And I was thinking about, in fact, today, if you look at the Times of India, page 1011, I was caught, a phrase caught my attention, formalizing the kabadi walas. Okay, what do you mean by formalizing the kabadi walas? It actually means a lot. We are looking back. We all forgot that we were always really very good at recycling, reuse, and reduce. We were always good. At that time, the women at home who were not the STEM candidates, and I believe that's the reason why women should be in STEM, even without knowing, were the proponents of sustainability in their own way, right? We would ridicule them. With technology advancing, we wanted them to use plastics, right? We wanted them to have better, reduce recycling, use better technology. But what we lost in between was the balance between the two. Yes, technology was important. Plastics were very, very important. This is just a small thing that I'm saying. I remember an advertisement where, was it Rupali Ganguly, or I forget who was the person there, but she opens the almirah and it's all Bonvita bottles, Horlicks bottles and all that, right? And then she closes and all it says is, this is India. Okay, that's all that it says. This is the Indian woman or something like that. It speaks volumes. It speaks volumes. Okay, so I think it used to be ingrained. We grew out of it. We are coming back. And the reason is we are bringing in, somewhere where you pick up something and then bring in science and technology, it sort of gets lost, but we are now just connecting the two. So we are back. This is an evolution process. There is nothing wrong in what happened, but it's an evolution process. It is something like haldi doodh converting into turmeric latte. That's what it is. I feel it is just that. And what is important is we all have an intent. What is important is there is a lot of innovation, science, technology, which can help do all of it. What is important is now it is an integrated, I think Anjali said that, or Madhulika, both of you, it is really integrating all the aspects of efficiency, conservation. I think that's about it, which we always knew. My brother, I have a habit of talking to my family members before I enter any panel discussion on sustainability in particular, because we have people who are very passionate about it, including my daughter, my brother. And he, of course, gave me some nice shlokas from I think it was from, I don't know where he gave it from, but I couldn't remember it. He said it too fast and I said, okay, not now, but sometime I will ask him to take it from him and I will share it with you. So with that, I would say, I would leave it at this, that we are there. We must remember that we are good at it. We must remember that we must accept the older things with a tinge of science and technology and bringing in innovation. And actually women can be a great proponents. And I will not say women are the ones who do it. I'll say women also are a party to it. It'll be very nice if we take them along and bring women also in STEM, and in a big way. Educate them, bring them in STEM. We can learn a lot. We can have why are they called efficient? That is the reason. It's not because it's a different species. It's just that sustainability is ingrained, and I believe we should take something from them. All right. And with all this, I'll say, at some point, maybe I can tell you what Cummins is doing. I didn't want to bring the corporate.
No, that's exactly where we're going next.
Had said it, so I thought I'd give it
exactly where we're going next.
Yeah,
I just want to call out something you said, because you brought in some very interesting perspectives. First, you brought a historic perspective that India, historically, we have thought like this, right? This is what, the whole kind of mindset of reuse If I go back to, when I was a child and all the things that my mom would reuse, and how much we would wait for something, really go to failure, as they say, on most things in the house. It is ingrained in us as Indians, right? I would go even further than as women or men, but as Indians, it was ingrained in us to reuse. My dad is quite aghast. I don't know, he's hopefully not on this. He's always shocked at how little I use something in his mind, right? The toothpaste would go always to the absolute. I mean, the only thing, I think, if you opened it, there wouldn't be anything left. So it is, I think, ingrained in all of us. I think it's a really good point. And to a point that Anjali made earlier, when we did a global survey on packaging and the kinds of things, India was surprisingly one of the places where sustainability was high on the list. And surprisingly, because we also watch the pocket, but sustainability was one of the things that we didn't mind paying for, which was quite surprising to people globally. But from an Indian perspective, we care about this. But with that, I'm going to ask, I'll start with you, Anuradha. I would love to know each of your companies, right? What are the kinds of things you're doing? A couple of questions also came up in the chat on this, for example, from Madhulika on, it's just how are you using technology for sustainability? But let me start with you, Anuradha, and I'll go in reverse order than last time.
So let me, I actually pulled up some slides, which I'm not going to show, but I'm going to read from there. I think one thing which is very, very important for us to know is the declaration of the Planet 2050 strategy, which has very aspirational targets. And what it says is the communities are better because we are there. So we want to have net positive impact in every community. Then doing our parts to address the climate change, where air emissions are very important. So we believe that customer success powered by carbon neutral technologies that address the air quality. And the third is using natural resources in the most sustainable way. And that is nothing is wasted. Design out in products and processes, use materials again for next life and reuse water. And towards this, we have 8 2030 goals divided into two. One are the science-based targets and the other are the circular economy based. And in science-based targets, we say we will reduce the absolute greenhouse gas emissions from our facilities and operations by 50%. We talk about the scope 3 emissions, so absolute lifetime GHG emissions from newly sold products by 25%. We say we'll partner with customers to reduce the scope 3 emissions again from products in the field by 55 million metric tons and reduce the volatile organic compounds, through the paint and coating, engines and power systems use that, operations by 50%. Under the circular economy, we talk about create a circular life cycle plan for every part to use less, use better, and use again. And there is a big team working on it. Generate 25% less waste in facilities and operations as a part of the revenue. Reuse and responsibly recycle 100% of packaging plastics and eliminate single-use plastics in dining facilities, employee amenities, etc. And reduce absolute water consumption in the facilities by 30%. And in addition to this, I say I'm very proud of our remanufacturing, which I talked about, which is I thought was a great idea. So much of steel, remanufacturing of steel is reduced, so many parts. And I think it's one of the brilliant business models. Thank you so much.
Can I just probably an understanding this, right, in the circular economy bit, especially so is there a recycling element to it? So do you actually, are you collecting back some of the material? Are you creating that last mile loop? How do you?
So as I told you, we will recycle a few of them, but the very fact our remanufacturing itself is it's a type of recycle and reuse. That's one very, very big thing. And every part that we are going to, for example, even a nut and a bolt, we know where it is going and we'll see if we can, in some way or the other, use it better, use it, maybe even reduce while design and use it again. So yes, we are talking about recycling of every part. It will take a little while, but that's, it has to be designed that way, the entire. So this is the first step. We are working towards it and we should be able to achieve it.
That's a really bold, as Anjali was saying, I think the business model to create that is potentially the interesting one, right? Yeah.
This is Cummins Inc. declaration. And right. Of course, we will be taking up a few things from there for India. Yes.
Great. From Cummins, then let me switch to Zomato, completely different space. Anjali, tell us a little bit about what kind of the big initiatives at Zomato are, the kinds of things you're doing in that space.
So we're on course to roll out like a big sustainability plan and agenda, and taking inspiration from all the great companies that are here actually. India fortunately has some excellent examples of companies that have done a lot, and we're no less ambitious than anyone. I think for us, really, our top priorities, of course, on the environmental side are emissions. We've made actually some significant commitments on how we're going to transition our fleet to EVs. So we're going to, for instance, we've signed this initiative called the EV 100 by the Climate Group, where we've committed to transitioning our fleet to 100% EV by 2030, and it should reach something like 24,000 as early as 2022-23. So and we know that that's a big one in terms of our carbon footprint. On plastics, we're also going to be extremely aggressive, and we're going to use both the levers of reduce and recycle. The idea is and then to work at two levels, at the level of consumers, because while we can take the approach of issuing contracts to recycle plastic, we actually believe that this is a much bigger problem in terms of we want, as a consumer brand, we feel we can change consumer behavior around recycling. I like to call it make recycling sexy again. So I think we can really do that. And we do have the energy of a lot of young people with us. So I think that that's something that's going to be a focus. Behavior. And then don't forget, because we work with a very large network of restaurants, we really want to work with the restaurant community very closely to firstly make them aware of what's available, what could suit their solutions, because at the end of the day, restaurants are recovering from a very, very, very difficult period of time, and we cannot force higher costs on them at this point in time. 23 lakh people lost their jobs during the pandemic and 25% of restaurants shut down. So, we are very sensitive to the fact that restaurants have suffered a lot, and that whatever happens on the sustainability side needs to carry them along, and it needs to be beneficial to them. They need to see how this can benefit their business. And like I said, and on the social side, because I do consider us to be actually a very, in fact, I consider Zomato's social impact to be enormous in terms of not just the jobs and earning opportunities, frankly, that we create through our delivery partner network. But don't forget, every time we help a restaurant grow, there are jobs being created in that sector as well. But it's really important that we ensure that we ensure the health, safety and well-being of all the people in our value chain. It's important that we ensure that this looks gender balanced. So we've already, very excited to let you know, we have at least over 1,000 women onboarded as delivery partners. And it's one of the largest such initiatives. It's the hardest thing to do, but it's a really big initiative. I'm very proud of it. And we, because women have suffered a lot in the pandemic, beauty parlors shut down, tailoring shops shut down. So helping women get back on their feet through this is something that's really close to my heart as well. So yes, I mean, while there's a ton of energy and plastic initiatives in the pipeline, I'm equally excited for all the social programs that we have lined up.
Fabulous, Anjali. In fact, I'm so excited to hear that Zomato, because when we hear a lot about sustainability, we hear a lot from the kind of old economy industries and manufacturing and so on. So it's really cool to hear a startup, and hopefully you will role model this for several other startups as well, that they should be thinking about sustainability actively. It's fabulous. And let me now ask Madhulika. Madhulika, I would also say there's a couple of questions in the chat, right? How is ITC planning to address next sustainability wave by using technology? And then there's something around ITC produces so many consumer products, right, which uses plastic packaging, and are you thinking of replacing? So maybe you want to weave that into your answers.
Yeah. So yes, I mean, I think ITC, it's a One, it's a conglomerate and a very large, exposure in the FMCG or B2C kind of segments. So obviously, and it's also very integrated, interestingly. I mean, people would not be knowing, but the connect for food goes back to the farm. And hence, of course, there is a stated strategy called S2.0, which has got 2030 goals. It's as of now, it and technology. I think there was a question on technology. So technology will be the key enabler, I think, for accelerating some of these these initiatives or these goals which have already been stated in public domain. Some of these could be more accelerating adoption of the technology, like in the renewable energy space or in the energy efficiency. But I think technology, we want to, as I said, there is a huge footprint in the scope 3, not only for carbon, but of course for other things like there's also a risk of physical, climate change risk. And actually the stakeholders there do not have the wherewithal to understand the whole thing. And that's where ITC as a value chain partner can come and step up. And so one of the things that we are currently doing is that, doing the baselining of our entire value chain, not only for climate change, but also we are doing for things like social sides, which is like, human rights and things like that, as to what we can do. Everyone would have heard, I think e-Chopal is a very, very known thing that has happened, I think 2 decades ago for ITC, but now it is it's going to next version. It has already undergone it's e-Chopal 2.0. Now it's something very, very fancy name, which is e-Chopal Mars, but it's actually going to integrate most modern climate change modeling data into the whole thing, and then kind of doing a predictability on what is going to happen. Some of it is known, a lot of it is not known, and that's where I think especially academia can come and help us in terms of really accelerating and scaling up these technologies, because this is also very, very fast evolving space, and not everyone is currently known. We need to have more data points within India, because these are all mostly it has started in the Western world, and most of the empirical data, so to say, are based out of Western world, and it needs to come to India. So we are looking at, I mean, there are a whole lot of things. Of course, I saw a question on consumer goods. So as I think Anjali also she has also said, for us, plastic does remain not only as an EPR responsibility, but I think it is kind of core to us in terms of our circular economy principles. And we have a very, we have one of the, I think in the country, a very established life science and material science, research and development at Bangalore, which is working on looking at one, recycling a lot of plastic, the other in terms of substituting plastic. So, the good thing about ITC is there's also a paper business. So also how can some of the paper products start replacing, which is paper is inherently very, very recyclable. So how can it replace some of these plastic products, which is not required. But of course, as I think Anjali also meant, that a lot of things, which is especially on the personal care and on the food side, there are still, there's a struggle on how do you, especially the multi-layer plastic, because you would try to processed food, you would try to, extend the longevity of the product, and so as to really kind of reduce the food wastage in the whole value chain. And some of the things, you cannot, and the moisture content and all those things are there. So these are, I think these are real challenges. So there's I think value chain, social side work that needs to happen. And, we need a large scale collaboration on that, not only from academia, I think from consumers on, I think Anjali mentioned on being a responsible consumer and really segregating. I think somebody mentioned, but if you look at Times of India, there are two today. There's one something which has come in Bombay edition, something which has come in the Delhi edition of Times of India, both focused on circular economy and plastic as one thing. So I think we can leapfrog. India as a country can leapfrog technologies, but we need to start from as a consumer also start this whole journey of looking. Of course, there's technology which will look at other substitutes, which will be using biodegradable components or recycle. For example, one of the things, we have a very strong project team and which is looking at using the recycled plastic for all the shuttering material, or even some of the plastic has the strength to be used as the scaffolding material that you use. So the plastic can be molded and it can get the strength. So there are so many things which is happening on plastic. There's a lot which needs to happen in the farm sector. So somebody used on the farm. So something that we are using, but and I was so happy to see in this budget that in agri, there's going to be a focus and there's some money allotted, budgeted for adoption of clean tech for climate resilience to be built in the farm sector. We have started kind of educating, helping, facilitating use of drones to improve the productivity of farm. We are also looking at, since we have a very strong silviculture thing, we are also looking at cloning of some of the farm, things so that we can they become more resilient as a crop. So multiple things happening, but I'll probably leave at that. And technology is the key enabler. And of course, there's a consumer, which I thought I'll come as your last question on what individually we can do. And I'll make that, appeal to everyone to be a responsible consumer also. So, but yes, these are some of the things that.
Thank you, Madhulika. I think it's there's a lot that I've taken away from all three of what you've said, but I'm also keeping an eye on the clock. So I am going to ask that last question, Madhulika. I've noticed there's a couple of other questions in the chat on solar energy. And I think one of the things that you've said, which is people should make good, smart decisions and sustainable decisions, is one of them. For example, let's use e-vehicles versus mopeds is a choice you can make. But let me now, I'll probably start with you, Madhulika. If there's something else you want to say as one piece of advice for everyone listening to make their lives more sustainable, whether personal or professional.
See, I think if you want to see the change, you have to be part of the change, is my mantra here. And if you want, it's not only for the governments or the corporates or, someone you see as a large thing, because a corporate or a government is a reflection of the society. So I think what individually all of us can start doing, and I think Anuradha mentioned about it, is first, we have this GDP. I mean, for us, growth was GDP. I mean, so if we kind of start looking at some of the baseless buying that we did, and I think COVID has taught us to be really, really frugal in terms of our needs. Actually, we don't need too much, and look at that aspect of what we need. Start being a responsible consumer. Also start being aware of some of the social things like what Anjali mentioned. So at when Zomato is making that thing, I'm sure there's a trade-off which they are doing in terms of their competitors. So are we as a consumer saying, no, I'm going to pick Zomato because they are hiring some women, underprivileged women, and they are going to probably ensure that they have the basic wages and several other things. But am I making that choice? So start making those choices when you're buying a food product. I'm not saying buy ITC product, but please look at what is written on the food package, right? And see that whether, what is written there. Are they ensuring nutrition? Are they ensuring recyclability? Are they, creating so that's what incentivizes, professionals like us in evangelizing this whole thing with across all functions, whether it's the marketing team or things, that it is a differentiator. It can become a differentiator, but only if they start seeing this change of a discerning customer, of a responsible customer at the end. So That's my submission. Of course, in our personal lives, please use as little plastic as you can. I mean, these are very small things. I'll not go into it, but carry your own bag, have your own water bottle. I think these are the minimum things that we can start doing. Also look at less amount of consuming things we can do with it. I think it's only about how do you want to spend our money. So
thank you, Madhulika. Thank you. Anjali, what would you add to that?
Tough to add to that because she did cover a lot of what I might have said. But I think, Naveen, consumers have never had as much power as they do today. And I think the feedback channels because of e-commerce, etc., are really great. Like, when consumers vote through purchases, it gets reflected immediately. So there's no loss of there's no loss of translation. So what ordering what you want from and making yourself heard is really important. So write the reviews, talk about your experience in restaurants which use plastic versus don't use plastic. All of this helps actually to create a culture of we need to change this now. And definitely I'm seeing a lot of that on social media as well. And I would only request, because I know there are a lot of students in the audience. So you're going to go out into the world and you're going to study various things, and then you're going to try to apply that and come up with really great solutions to issues like plastic, issues like energy. I would only request that consider who is doing these services already today, and consider ways in which we don't make this about replacing them or reducing them to something else. Like think of the cleaners, think of the waste pickers, think of the raddiwalas. There are people who've helped us preserve the environment at least till this point. And think about adding this really important social dimension to all the work that you're doing, because I think technology needs to exist for society rather than society sort of bending above backwards to accommodate a technology. We can only bend that much.
Thank you, Anjali. Thank you. And with that, maybe I'll ask Anuradha provide some final words on that question.
So Anjali, very well said. I must say that. I mean, it really echoes with my thoughts, and I think it's very important. But more, my earnest desire is 10 years down the line, we don't teach another new subject, which again means the same thing. I really hope it's ingrained. It starts at home with us. Sustainability should be a way of life. I think that's very, very important. And I'm just summing up what Madhulika and what Anjali said in simply saying that sustainability is supposed to be, is and should be a way of life. Let's start at home. We do it, and then it's easy for the corporates to, we don't need regulations to make us do it. We need to do it ourselves. Regulations help. And then innovation and technology is there. We should make the best use of it, keeping the social aspect in mind. That's all that I say.
Thank you. Thank you. I might make a poor attempt at trying to summarize this very rich conversation, but starting from, where you started, Anuradha, around, we've always had a tradition, right? India has been a place which has ingrained sustainability. It's not and we've used different terms for it over time, triple bottom line, as Anjali called it, or some different terms have come through, but the reality is in us, there is a natural tendency to reuse and recycle and be sustainable. I think that's how we've thought about it. But over the last 10, 15 years, as both Madhulika and Anjali called out, it's really kind of become more mainstream, which I think we have to use, right? And then mainstream has meant it's gone beyond carbon to mean a lot more things. It's around social equity. It's around making sure that people are treated right. It's about water. It's not just about carbon. So I love the fact that it's actually become much bigger and it's become more mainstream, and it's forced its way into the consciousness of corporates, which has been really good. And I think, Madhulika, you called out 2015 as that landmark year, right? Paris Agreement happened, the SDGs came out, and therefore that made a big difference. And then I love the examples that all your companies are doing, right? And the fact that you're so excited about it, the fact that it's a real game changer in terms of companies putting money behind it, behind this, because in the past people have spoken about it, but it's not really translated into action. But the fact that you have such fabulous leaders leading these things, and the excitement and energy and more importantly, money behind some of these initiatives is making a difference. And it's in such wide spaces, whether it's in the fields, in ITC, or whether it's in the manufacturing facilities at Cummins, or to make a difference. And if I kind of take the last summary of messages around what we can each do, I think it's a really interesting point, because investors are driving the shift in India right now, right? It's not coming from anywhere else. It's not really coming from regulators, not really coming from customers.
I think Naveen is having some technical issues.
Yeah. Nishani, you want to take over? I think he's sort of
Yes, it's
somehow.
time. I know. Sorry about this, everybody, but I think we can conclude this session. Thank you, Malati, for launching this session with this great smile and tone. Firstly, I would like to thank Professor Mahesh for his wonderful keynote on the different areas of sustainability that IIT Madras is working on. And I think, yes, IIT Madras is definitely getting greener by the year. And that is huge efforts by the whole ecosystem and the centers of excellence within the campus. The pure oxygen, the flora, fauna, and the beautiful birds make it a wonderful place to come in every day. Thank you, Naveen, for bringing such interesting ideas and areas of sustainability to light for our audience. I think the panel brought out several insights and things to even think about, even if you're not in the core area of sustainability. We're extremely grateful that you could make it, even though you're currently not keeping that well. Professor Anuradha, Madhulika, and Anjali, thank you for being a part of IIT Madras Alumni Association program Sangam 2021. Your conversations were brilliant with diverse perspectives. It was a great discussion, and IIT definitely would like to engage with you more in the year in several other capacities. The conversations touched on history, personal ideologies, as well as corporate dimensions, which itself is creating a balance and an ecosystem, I may add. I'd like to thank our sponsors, IIT Madras Alumni Corporate Relations, Hero Wired, and Active for their generosity. Last but not the least, our wonderful audience as always. Thank you for all the love and support for the activities and initiatives of IITMAA. Have a great evening, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks.
Naveen, I see you're back. But
yes, I'm so sorry. My